Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. um, I don't know if you were on the video one, but I was telling Ed, now that I've set up these to record automatically, there's always like the first awkward 3 minutes where it's just me or me talking to someone else. That's going to be on every recording. So, hi everyone.
Hello. Ed should show you, or I could show you how to just trim the video.
I know, I could do that too. It's like an extra thing. And I'm like,
Yeah, totally. It's just more work for you.
people can fast forward, right? A lot of heard this on the last call. One day on a slow day, I'll go back and trim these, but not today.
Just for my own, I don't know, reference, Katie, are you going to take notes if there are any, like, change this kind of comments?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. Hello, party people.
All right, Nicole, since we only have 30 minutes, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. And I know we've hired some people since I have talked about this pretty openly. So I thought I'd give a little bitty bit of context before showing you the thing. Basically, right now we have field guide for our product documentation. This is field guide. It is a Chorus blog. As you probably know, reverse cron blogs are not the best way to share help documentation. It makes it a little hard to group things by topic and help people on board. So, this project so far has included like a content audit. We did research. Christina and I talked to our users about like what they like and don't like about field guide. I looked at analytics, and the whole community team did a bunch of exercises around like what are our dream integrated support tools. We chose Zendesk. And so in the near future, hopefully by the end of the year, we will have one place where the associate community managers are answering tickets and also sharing documentation. So today I'm going to show you the new documentation, and would love to get your feedback on that. And just wanted to share some of the goals of this project before I show that to you. From the audit and from our research, we found a lot of people have trouble searching on field guide. There's not a lot of like wayfinding. I added these topics like after joining, but it doesn't really give you like a big picture of what Chorus is all about. It's also really hard for us to maintain because there's not a lot of like ways to search for like themes or groups or things within our documentation. So it's not super scalable. And we don't have a lot of flexibility with the permissions on this. It's just a private, Chorus blog where you have to be signed into Chorus to see it, which also creates problems for people who are having trouble signing into Chorus. So I'm gonna demo the site, and I just wanted to tell you, like, it's not perfect, but I'm open to any feedback. I took some liberties of like grabbing logos and things. Hopefully these will change with the other project I'm working on with the Chorus branding. In terms of specific goals, like in addition to migrating stuff over, I wanted to reduce the amount of redundant content and outdated stuff, trivial stuff, give people more context. So instead of telling them like a smaller piece of a process, like kind of bringing all of those threads together, I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. Search works really well, which makes me very happy. We also have Google Analytics built right in, and really wanted to build a foundation for the community team to scale documentation and use this as a foundation for our onboarding efforts as we bring on more partners and more users just within our own company. So you're getting a preview view with like this, added nav because I'm signed in, but just imagine that's not there. So Zendesk is really great about like making it easy to move things around. So if we decide that we want to change the name of, they call these categories, it's super easy to do that. Not everything is quite perfect. I don't like how it's like repeating here, but this is called a section, and then these are the articles within it. So, I added the volume stuff yesterday. Like, if you wanted to like search for geo-restricting a video, it has suggestions. It auto-completes right there, and then you can see the article. And we've done a lot of work on the editorial side of this to come up with some standards around how we format our documentation, and also using sentence case like we do in the product, using a conversational tone like we do in the product, that sort of thing. So I'm not gonna like show you every category or document, but I just kind of wanted to give you a high level view of that, and also show you that some of the cool automated things, like we can extend. There's a option to promote a particular article on the homepage. I'm not doing that right now, but if you look at like Slack or Dropbox, their help centers, they use that a lot when there's like a hot topic in the news, or something we probably want to have high level all the time is like resetting your two-factor, because that's like one of our number one problems right now. It also has a recent activity feed. We've decided not to use the community feature, which is like a forum, but we might use that in the future, TBD. And I got a little bold yesterday and decided to like try to do some HTML and added some links here. I will beg for some front-end attention here. We can start to kind of make a cohesive website for our users, and this is like one piece of that, which is our help center. Hopefully, eventually we'll have the marketing solved, and you'll be able to contact people from this page. We can have links in the top nav that say like, contact us and work with the Zendesk. The agent side stuff, we can also link back to our marketing page in the footer, which is what Slack does. And the other nice thing is we can have internal documentation here that's only available to our agents. So I'm using the word agent because it's Zendesk lingo, but the associate community managers have documentation that is really for them to solve things that aren't, for users to solve. And like, we would like to have this here too. And now we can make it to where only they can see documents. So we can start to have all of our stuff in a cohesive place. If we ever decided that we wanted these kind of editorial level docs to only be available to people who are signed in, we can also set that up. Right now they're set up to be viewable to everyone. Does anyone have questions so far?
Greg?
Hey, sorry, trying to find my controls. Hey.
So you raised your hand.
On one of the articles, and maybe on every article, there was a was this helpful link at the bottom of the page. Will somebody be monitoring that? And are you going to encourage people to offer that feedback?
Yeah, so we decided to use this because we think it'll be really helpful for us. If if 10 people vote no, then that hopefully will be a useful indicator. I haven't done any integration work here. It's just anonymous. You can do it anonymously. The way that Slack does this, if you say yes, they just take that data. But if you say no, a little contact form pops up. And it is, I'm assuming, tagged to the help center team that does the documentation. So I was thinking something like that might work for us, some kind of widget. And Chrissy's managing the kind of agent tooling side of the project, so we can optimize this later. But yeah, I think it will be really helpful. And I've worked with stuff like this in the past, when I was working on documentation at Apple. So I've found these things, they're not perfect. Sometimes people just sit there and say no, but if we ask people what would make this document better, and they actually tell us something, I think that's a really good data point. So, yeah, we have lots of hopes and dreams of building out the tooling of this, but I think right now it's just a huge step forward in just the quality of the doc experience, even just in the fact that you can find stuff. So. And I have the little participants panel up now if anyone has other questions. Marie?
Actually, I think Stephanie maybe had a question. So.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to ask, in the same way that there's kind of a agent-specific area, is there any opportunity to create partner-specific little silos of content with this?
So from what I can tell, there's 3 levels. It's basically everyone, it's signed in users. So people signed into Zendesk, so they would either have to go through I don't know if we would want to build out auth with our API, or just have them sign in with Google Docs or something, the Google SSO, whatever. But once you're a signed-in user, you can create what they call I'll show you because I'm not thinking of the word segments. So you can create these segments. I don't know if we'll want to do this. I think some of this would take some development work, but for now we're just kind of defaulting to everything open, or move stuff to Google Drive if it's sensitive, some of our SEO stuff we don't want partners to see. I'm going to work with the search team to find a better home for that stuff in their existing kind of repository of documents.
Okay, thanks. So it sounds like it's possible. It would take some effort for sure.
Yeah, and I think we should be careful about that and think smartly about that at a content level of what would we be saying to partners about the product that we wouldn't want to say to our editorial users. I'm not saying that there's not something, but I think if there's a welcome checklist for partners, it's probably going to be useful for our internal editorial users as well. So anyway, I think we should think about that and keep talking about it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Marie?
I'm so excited about this.
Sorry, I'll go back to the thing now.
I wanted to just call attention to 2 things about this. So one thing that I'm really excited about, and I'm excited to be able to start to talk to our users and also future partners about this, is this means that Chorus documentation will be Googleable. That's fucking huge. I'm so excited about that. The other kind of piece of this in terms of future integration and where I think we see this heading, Chrissy, Nicole, and I spend a lot of time in DMs and meetings checking in on various things and talking about how we think this is all going to work together. And Slack, I think, is a great model for how they're using Zendesk in a really integrated way. If you have ever put a help request in through, say, the Slack app. I did this earlier today. You start typing and it shows you like, hey, yeah, Nicole, this is awesome. Yeah, if you start typing something in the subject, like it's gonna pull in a couple of docs that maybe are relevant, like reconnecting. And this is like the world that we could be living in when we make this move. So I really wanted to like show that to everybody, because we talk so much about, yeah, exactly. We talk so much about like self-service, and we know our users, like this is what they want, right? They want to be able to do this themselves. So I think like the first phase of this is like getting all the documentation over, and the next phase that Chrissy's working on is getting the stuff that lives in Help Scout into Zendesk. So we're managing more of our email communication with users in Zendesk instead of in Help Scout. There will maybe someday in 2019 be a phase where we sunset the Slack support channel, move everything into Zendesk. And then once everything is there, we're going to be able to start to take advantage of this kind of integration so that we can recommend documentation to folks based on the kinds of queries that they're making, the things that they're asking for help with.
Yeah, I also, sorry, what?
I just said the future is bright.
Oh yeah. This is mainly for the community folks on the call, but I just wanted to show really quickly how easy it is to move things, and also how easy it is to do bulk actions, which is what they call it. So I was talking to Marie yesterday. I had one big section for the story editor, and I felt like I needed to break that out. You know, this, like, I think information architecture is an ongoing exercise that we should all be like involved in. It shouldn't just be me making these decisions. So please give me input here. But, you know, as an example, I have this subsection about stories, like kind of like the basic story types. I don't know what this should be called. We decided to call the category create stories, but you know, if I decided that actually I wanted this to be in a different section, you literally can drag and drop it. Like it couldn't be easier. It makes me very happy. You can also drag and drop articles like from one section to the other. So it makes it really easy for us to treat this as a living product and not, you know, let it get out of date. The last thing I wanted to kind of show for the community folks especially is, I was doing this yesterday, you know, if we wanted to change who can view, like sorry, I'm like trying to think through. Okay, so right now I don't have any articles that are only available to signed in users, but if I did, this filter would like let me choose them, do a bulk action to change who can see them, which is just really helpful in maintaining this stuff. And you can see they have like a whole bunch of things we can do. We can like bulk promote things. So like during the holidays when everyone's getting new phones, we can promote all the things about 2FA, that sort of thing. Anyway, this is just like a level of optimization that we did not have that makes it a lot faster for us. Any other thoughts or questions, or if there are volume folks on the call, I'll show you that I've started the video stuff, and this will be evolving as we work through the redesign. Mandy?
Hey, I'm curious how you thought through tackling like our existing set of documentation and making it like okay to be public. Like what do you, like in a broad strokes, what were the strategies there?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, it has to be accurate. Like, I don't want the public to see stuff that's wrong. I don't really want anyone to see that. We've been thinking about like what types of things are not okay to share. So I think some of the SEO documentation, for example, like it's kind of like trade secrets in a way. The SEO team does the same things that any other SEO team does, but we do it in a certain way. We have our own research. It's specific to our brand. So in that case, I talked with Luch about it, and I was just like, hey, like, how do you feel about these being public or not? And there's some of that stuff that we're going to pull in here, but I think most of it he's going to make the call that it needs to be on Drive. In terms of like reading through a particular doc, the clippings one is an example where we decided to pull out the table that has all of the email addresses that SB Nation can use to email clippings to be able to put them in a story. So there weren't a lot of things like that, honestly, where it was like, well, this doesn't seem like this should be public. I think in some cases, we have to say something like, if you have a question about this and you're not like, I don't know, this is not related to privacy, but we naturally have some places in our process where we're already telling users that they have to contact us to do something. One of these is like to delete an asset permanently. This was already like our documentation. So I think some of it is that of like making a call of like, is this something that's like common enough that we should let users do it on its own? Like if it is, it should probably be part of the product, right? And if it's not, then like, let's think about like, why are we keeping them from doing this? Is this something we can put in the ACM's documentation versus here? I don't know. I'm trying to think of other specific things that came up, but honestly, just reading every single doc was like kind of my process. And then when I was migrating them over, at first I thought I was gonna have all of the ACMs help me paste documents, and then like I would go back through and like mass organize them. But I found, because before I started this, like we had different people working on the documentation, and there were like different ways of organizing the same kinds of information. So I just found that it was faster for me to fix the styling and think about the organization while pasting stuff in. So I've looked at every single one of these. They're not perfect, but I guess the other thing is just asking you, Mandy, like you may not remember, but I've DM'd you a few times, like, is syllabus in or out? Like, are we going to share syllabus with partners? No, then it probably shouldn't even be on this website, right? So stuff like that.
Yep, that makes sense. And it looks like there are not a lot of images in here. Did you guys decide to?
There's no images right now.
Okay. Yeah. I guess our screenshot strategy has always been evolving, and it's like hard because we're constantly changing things. So where did we land on a just fewer images kind of place with that?
Yeah. When we did the research around Field Guide, we heard that people really like having at least one image to kind of like help them figure out what even like they're supposed to be looking for. They don't necessarily need screen by screen, like, then click this button kind of stuff. Because we're in the middle of so many changes right now, like I just decided, let's get the text right, and we can go back and figure out like which of these really need screenshots. I think like the groups ones, for example, definitely do. The ones where we're walking people through packaged content, like that's a really complicated flow of stuff. But we have those screenshots in Field Guide, and we can easily just like, put them on our desktop, pull them over. It just honestly also doesn't look great. I would love to work a little bit, if we have any time, to just have like a front end person look at like how we could, I'll show you, like, we can do a basic image, like insert, or we can do a code block. But it just doesn't look amazing if you put like a Chorus screenshot in here. So that's a thing that, Marie and I just agreed I would punt on for the sake of like, let's get the docs solid, and then we can kind of like optimize the experience.
Yeah, this is like I'm talking kind of a follow-up question about this, and I see Marie has her hand up. This might be a question for you, which is like, do we have a like comms plan at the like Meredith level around this, in terms of like, this will be the first time that we've had lots of screenshots about and content about how Chorus works on the internet, widely available. So I'm wondering what you're thinking about with that.
We don't, but I think we definitely will. I know, like, we've talked a little bit with Trey about this, so I know that it's on his radar. I don't know that he and Meredith have been syncing up on it, so I will reach out to her and give her a heads up on it, and we can figure that out. I think there's a piece of There's a piece of the screenshot stuff too that does tie into the partnership conversation. Nicole and I had talked a little bit about that as well, of like historically a lot of the screenshots that we used in documentation were of SB Nation, because it was easy to do SB Nation flagship and have that feel relevant to bloggers, whereas like one of the other brands it might not. I think we probably would need to think about a world where we have like maybe not exactly lorem ipsum content, but not Vox Media or partner content like on a white label site. And so that was kind of the other reason for holding a lot of the screenshots.
Yeah, I've started to feel like our SB Nation as default screenshot would be a little weird as we scale.
I agree. I think the white label strategy is probably the one that we need to get to. Just need to talk through how we'd make that happen.
Yeah. I don't know if we could do some sort of magical partnership with Wikipedia where they don't mind if we use their content.
Blake, did I see your hand up or did I imagine that?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about, I'm curious about what the future of the Anthem support / contact / like announcement sidebar is. And if we need to like either turn some parts of that off when like Zendesk goes live, or integrate it better, or because I noticed it's not a part of the volume beta yet also, so I'm not sure if that's something that we had planned for like doing more with, or walking back from that.
That's a great question. I had some notes about next steps, and I'll go over those in a second, but when we were doing our research, no one we talked to even knew that was there. They're not searching documentation in the story editor. So my suggestion, I don't know what y'all think, this is like what I think we should do, is just to have a normal help menu that takes you to the help center, because after this, any contact stuff is gonna need to go through, the stuff that Chrissy's setting up, and the documentation will just be there. So I think that feature is just not really being used. So I don't know that we need to like have that integrated. That said, we have a bunch of places where there are help like tooltips. And so we'll need to go and fix the links to those. And I can easily do that in a pull request. And I know that even in discussion with KDK today, we would like to do some of the similar, like in a tooltip linking to a like longer guide for volume. We haven't done that so far, but there's a couple of things like the Facebook ID code for an embed that people can regenerate when they want to explain to them in detail, like what it's useful for and that sort of thing. So I'm totally open to feedback on like, I think that work should be part of like the official launch plan. And right now I'm kind of working towards like the alpha launch. I feel like we're going to do usability testing next week. I think then we can kind of like soft launch this to editorial and just start linking to it instead of field guide when we're, answering questions once we're comfortable with it being public. And then I think at some point we need to kind of like flip to, phasing out the field guide officially in the story editor and all that stuff. And I mean, I think that the engineering work of like, me fixing those links is pretty quick, but I don't know how y'all feel about like the kind of help menu.
Yeah, just the reason for like pulling the content into the editor, like the main reason that we did that back in the day was because we had lots of login issues between people going from their chorus page into field guide. And so just pulling the content in there resolved that. The only other value of like eventually, and I don't think this is a near-term requirement, but maybe eventually we should consider it as having some, integrated contact form somewhere, is that we can snag people's browser information and like maybe exactly, maybe what page they're on, maybe some errors have been recorded. Like there's some, I think, like error reporting value of that, but I think it's pretty low level relative to the other priorities here. So.
I'm down with all of that. As from my perspective, it seems like turning off some of that integration in the editor will be really quick.
Cool. Yeah, and I think if there's, I mean, I think we should do this in phases, right? If it makes sense to just like remove the documentation search, but keep that like, you know, here's what's new on the blog and that kind of thing, we can always like add it back in. The last thing I wanted to say is I will need to like set up a bunch of redirects because I know people have some things in Field Guide like, you know, bookmarked or whatever, or like linked in their, you know, the Verge wiki or whatever. So that's a piece that I'll handle later. And then kind of phase 2, phase 3 is just to work with the other teams on the product side who have documentation on Field Guide, like I said, the SEO team. And there's some Vox Creative, like ad specific stuff that Winston and I need to talk through, that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of just treating that as like, after we get this out there, people are using it, we can solve that other piece.
I don't see any other hands, Nicole.
Cool. Well, thanks, y'all. I know that you can't see it, but you know, if you want to watch the usability testing, or if you want to just like pair with me, if you care about this stuff, I can always give you control of my screen. If anyone wants to see more of this, just let me know. I'm happy to share it. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicole. This is great.
Bye.
Bye.